students or yourself, and then give me like a main argument. Say like, what is your main take on why you think the vaccination mandate is not ethical or ethical? Hello and welcome to Tiger Clash. I'm your moderator, Jake Stoop. Each month we're bringing in two of your fellow students to debate a certain topic. In today's episode, the topic of the debate is would a vaccination mandate be ethical? Joining me today in this debate are Kate LeBaron and Trevor Johnson. I just want to ask you both, starting with Kate, tell me a little about yourself. Tell me how you're involved in school and just tell me what side you're on for this argument.
All right, my name is Kate LeBaron. I am in 11th grade and I am on the speech and debate team. From my side, I am against the COVID-19 mandate because it does not completely eradicate or prevent the disease or virus. There are also alternative treatments for the virus, and it is not proven safe or effective as there has not been a 5 to 10 year clinical trial.
Okay. What about you, Trevor?
Hello, my name is Trevor Johnson. I am involved in the speech and debate team with Kate, and I am on the side that the COVID-19 vaccine mandate is ethical. I believe that it's ethical because we're living in fairly historic times, and with the economic, social, and well, I guess the loss of life, we should find the best way to get rid of, well, not get rid of it, but control the situation, which I think would be the vaccine.
Okay, cool. Just first question, I just want you to tell me like your main take or why you think it's not ethical.
All right, it's not ethical because first of all, it's not constitutional. There is no law written saying you have to get the vaccine. So the government executive branch specifically mandated it. They didn't have any say from the judicial branch or legislative branch, which is the purpose of checks and balances. Also, the Pfizer vaccine, it just came out on August 23rd. Smallpox vaccines, the swine flu vaccine, the flu shots, they've taken years to develop, not just a couple months. Also, it does not completely eradicate or prevent the disease, as, for example, in Hawaii, the governor, he said 60% of people are vaccinated, but then in the following weeks, the death rate shot up by 40%, more than average. Also, there are other treatments for the disease. You don't have to do COVID. That's the COVID vaccine. That's not the only cure. There's also ivermectin and hydrochloroquine. They're in Japan, specifically India, Japan. They've used ivermectin and they've seen really low levels. That's why you don't hear much about India and the cases they've had.
So I feel that the COVID-19 vaccine mandate would be a good way to go about it. We can see that as people become more vaccinated, the rates of vaccination are not, well, I mean, it's not vaccination, the rates of contraction and death are not as high. I have a source here somewhere. I believe for people that were not vaccinated, it was roughly they were 4 times more likely, based on the CDC's measurements. They were four times more likely to contract the COVID-19 virus, and they were I think 18 times more likely to die, or something like that.
If you didn't take the vaccine?
If you didn't, you were at a much higher risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, I have a question for you. So you say that the COVID vaccine, it helps prevent this. So why Vermont? It's the most vaccinated state in the country. 80% are vaccinated. So why are they experiencing the highest cases they've had?
Are they experiencing the highest cases
Yes.
they've had? Well, no vaccine is 100%. This has been known for quite some time. You can see it with any vaccination, really.
All right, then let me ask you another question. Joe Biden, he said, you are not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations. That's what he said.
That's clearly an incorrect statement.
Okay, so Joe Biden. So the person you are listening to, he said an incorrect statement.
I never said I was listening to Joe Biden. I was just listening to...
All right, then let me ask you a question. Iceland, 81% are vaccinated. 3 weeks ago, they hit their highest they have in 2 years. Denmark, 76% are vaccinated. They have a record new cases. Singapore, 92% are vaccinated. They have their highest in a year.
Well, for one, vaccinations, that's why they're calling for boosters. Vaccinations they're not like, they don't last forever. You're going to need to get like some people will need to get revaccinated, things like that.
All right, so if vaccinations don't last forever, then why for the chickenpox vaccine I only had to take it once and I am done? I don't ever have to take the chickenpox vaccine again in my life.
Well, I don't know about that one specifically.
Yes, because that is because it is proven safe and effective. There's 20 years before they tested it on humans in the process of developing this vaccine. Same with swine flu. Like for example, swine flu vaccine, they took, I think it was 10 years to put it out on the market before people could take the vaccine. That's how long they did a clinical trial for. But then they immediately took it back, I think it was a year later, because 53 people died.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you know the exact figures for how likely you are to die after contract? I would imagine that you feel some type of way. Do you believe that someone could die from receiving the COVID-19 vaccine?
Yes, I do actually.
You
All
do?
right, so there have been 1,180,014 people who've purportedly gotten the vaccine about 1 month ago. And from that, 31,014 people have died from that. So that is 2.3%. But then if you go on to something else, it says that if you are 0 through 19 years old, is a 99.997% that you'll die from COVID. 20 through 49, 99.98% you'll die from COVID. 50 through 69, 99.5% if you die from COVID. But then you're seeing that 2.3% who are dying from the vaccine. That's way higher than the 0.003% who would die from COVID.
I just want to cut in here and kind of ask you a question. Is it like what she's talking about? Is it okay to mandate something that people are dying from?
Well, for one, I have the figures here from the CDC website. More than 459 million doses of COVID-19 were administered in the United States from December 14th, 2020 to November 29th, 2021. During that time, the VARES, the organization that is responsible for recording like malfunctions with the vaccine, received 10,128 reports of death. If you take that from the measurement of 459 million, that's only 0.0022%, which is fairly low.
You die from COVID. So you're saying that it's not a 99.997% chance that you will die from COVID. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, it's fairly low.
Okay, let me ask you a question. So pretend you are in an airplane and the pilot says there's a 99.997% chance you will crash. They hand you a parachute, say this is an ineffective parachute, it does not work, it's not proven to be safe, it's only been out for 2 months. Would you strap that parachute to yourself and jump out?
Can you see the question again?
Okay, do you believe the vaccine, you should be mandated to get the vaccine if you have a way higher chance of surviving if you just get COVID? And that doesn't even account for the immunity you get. I mean, I've had COVID before, so I have the antibodies for that, and I am technically immune. So would you still think that I should get the vaccine if I am immune?
Let me see. I have the
And another
numbers.
thing.
Yeah,
Okay, no medicine is designed for every person. I mean, the government right now is treating me, a healthy runner, like an 80-year-old with asthma. Like they're saying everybody must get the vaccine, but that's not the case because that's the thing with the flu shot. They say you can get a flu shot only if you want because everybody is different. I mean, maybe with the COVID vaccine, an older person will want to get it because they think it will protect them, but maybe they don't want to get it because if they get sick from that COVID vaccine, which is highly likely, then they might die.
Well, I have the figure right here. According to CDC data, we have had in the U.S., as of right now, we've had 49,002,475 cases of COVID. And of those, we have had 785,655 deaths.
Yeah. Well, that was the first segment of the show. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the second part.
The COVID-19 vaccines can be our chance to get back to our plans, who we are, what we miss, to get back to each other, to life. But it's okay to have questions, like, how were the vaccines tested? In rigorous clinical trials among adults of diverse backgrounds. Can the vaccines give you COVID-19? You cannot get COVID-19 from a vaccine. Why should I get vaccinated? Protecting yourself also helps protect the people around you. Find the latest information at getvaccineanswers.org.
Welcome back to Tiger Clash. Again, we're here with Trevor and Kate discussing the vaccination mandate. And Trevor, I want to start with you. I want to ask, just explain how herd immunity affects your argument and tell us what herd immunity actually is.
Well, herd immunity is when a large enough portion of the population has become immune to an infectious disease. Now, herd immunity can be reached through different means. Sometimes it's through contraction, you contract the virus, bacteria, whatever, and you gain immunity from that. And over time, that helps the population grow more immune to the disease where it's no longer as much of a threat as it used to be. Or you can have vaccinations, which, like we can see with things like measles, people are required to get measles vaccines to keep them from, and measles is not as big of a deal as like 1900 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I believe herd immunity is when, like you said, when a large enough population has been exposed to the virus, so they are immune or they have been vaccinated. That is what I think it is. But the thing is with a COVID vaccine, it says that I have to be vaccinated too, but I am already immune. So technically, I am part of the herd immunity population.
Where are you immune? Like, what are you basing that on? Is because you have?
Yeah, I've gotten COVID before.
Well, even if you can still contract, I would say that you should still get it because it would shore up like the ability to not pass it on to other people. Because you can still have asymptomatic individuals and you don't know like if they have COVID or not, but they can still pass it on to other people.
All right, well, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya explained natural immunity provides equivalent or greater protection against severe infection than immunity generated by COVID-19 vaccines, and vaccines don't prevent transmission or disease among the vaccinated. And that's a doctor.
Okay.
Pretty solid quote,
Awesome.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can move on to the next part of it. We'll start with Trevor again. I'm going to ask you, do the benefits of the COVID-19 vaccine, as you've already stated, do those outweigh the potential risks that she's been mentioning?
Again, yeah, I would say that they do. We can see like I said with the figure before, that according to the CDC, and I was wrong about the numbers before, I'm remembering now, those who had not been vaccinated are 5.8 times more likely to get infected and with COVID, and if you had not been vaccinated, you are 14 times more likely to die from COVID. And that's from the CDC, the leading organization on this issue. So I would ask you, what you're saying that like vaccines do not, well, I'll change that. Let me ask you this question. Do you feel that vaccines help like people from getting infections in any way? Do you think?
I believe they can, but again, it depends on the person and their experience with the virus.
Okay.
Also,
Yeah, and again, this debate is about the mandate itself. Do you think that everyone should be mandated?
No, I do not think everybody should be mandated. And another reason is because just because you don't get the vaccine doesn't mean you're not going to get COVID. I mean, the Cowboys football team, they were all vaccinated, but 8 people on the team and 2 coaches still got COVID.
Well, like I said before, you still at a higher risk from not getting vaccinated to contract COVID-19.
Where's the data from that?
I just gave it 5.8 times more likely to get infected, and that's from the CDC.
Yeah, he's just saying it's possible, but it's not as likely as if you didn't have the vaccine.
All right, so if I get COVID again, then so what? It's my body, it's my choice.
Well, yes, but your personal liberties cannot. No one right is unlimited. You have to. There are times when you have to, I guess, discern, and we have to ask the question as, like, I guess, a greater society. Does my bodily autonomy bring harm or can bring harm to other people?
Yeah, so if I did give the vaccine, if I did give the COVID to somebody else and they have, like I said, like a 0.01% chance of ever dying from that. But you're saying that I should get the vaccine, but I have a 2.3% chance of dying from that. So you're saying that vaccine could actually harm me worse than another person. And if another person is scared of COVID, they can sit home, they can wear a mask, they can get vaccinated 28 times with the billions of boosters that are coming out. They can take proper precautions.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I just have a follow-up question with that specific argument. I want to ask you, if you want me to explain the question, I can. Is it ethical to place limits on personal choices when those personal choices could be harmful to other people?
Well, yes, we, like I said, no one right is unlimited. Like, you have the Second Amendment right, to carry, but there are certain times when you have to you're not allowed to carry your piece or your weapon in certain areas for the safety of others. That would be.
I don't think it's ethical to place limits on personal choices because in the Constitution it says we have liberty in the pursuit of happiness. I know there can be deterrents though. I mean, for drunk driving, if you want to go do that, there are going to be consequences, jail time for a long time also. But for the government to say no one can have alcohol anymore, that just doesn't make sense.
I would consider that rather hyperbolic. Like, I would think that you're taking it from, like, you're saying that the government telling you can't drunk drive, and then telling everyone that we can't drink. That's a fairly drastic situation. All I'm saying is that it would be better and more beneficial if it was more incentivized to get vaccinated in order, like I said before, people who were not vaccinated were 5.8 times more likely to get infected.
Well, I should have the personal choice of what treatment I want. Like, there's also, like I told you, there's vitamin D, there's zinc, there's ivermectin, there's hydrochlorine. There's so many other things that could.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you tell me what hydrochloroquine is? Like.
All right, hydrochloroquine it boosts zinc levels. So in COVID patients, their zinc levels are extremely low. So if we can boost that, then that will help that person.
Does the zinc levels protect you more from COVID than the vaccine would?
Well, from data, it shows that people who die from COVID, they have higher zinc levels than not. And it can protect you, yes, from COVID.
But not as much, is what you're saying. So
Well,
there are
there's-
ulterior ways to heal yourself.
Yeah,
but
there's
not
also
as
ulterior
effective.
ways. I mean, like ivermectin, it was first discovered in Japan. They took 20 years to actually fully make it available to humans. And it has helped many countries with their COVID cases. There's a guy in Illinois, actually. He was on life support for COVID. The doctors, they refused to give him anything other than the COVID vaccine. Like they said, like they didn't care. They wouldn't give him ivermectin. So then the family, they went to the judge and he allowed it. And the guy got better and he's now home and he is completely fine. From a ventilator to home in a week.
Then why aren't we using ivermectin at a higher rate? Like, I would say, like with Japan, they have their country. They're a fairly prosperous, well-known
All
country.
right, exactly. The government is trying to hide that because for the Pfizer vaccine, they have a revenue of, I think, $37 billion just from this vaccine. But for ivermectin, their revenue is only $66 million.
Well, I would say it's very improbable that the government's trying to hide it. I mean, you found the information quite easily. Like,
Well, I had to dig. I never said I found it easy.
So you're saying the media is playing a part because of money?
Oh,
Is that what
definitely.
you're
The
saying?
media is completely biased and corrupt.
what side are they biased to?
The deep state, but I won't go into that. They're also biased just to the left.
Yeah, that's a completely different argument.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take another short break and we'll be back with Savannah, who is going to bring us interviews from your fellow students when we come back.
I think it's time we blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Welcome back. Now we go to Tiger Clash's reporter, Savannah Worley.
Thank you, Jake. I went around the school to talk to other students to get their opinions on if a vaccination mandate would be ethical. Let's see what they have to say.
How do you feel about the vaccination mandate?
I feel like it should really be a choice because, like, different people have different opinions on, like, different things. Nobody should be able to be forced to do something they're not comfortable with.
I feel as though the vaccination mandate is incredibly important because it protects people.
I think it's stupid because it's going to like evolve and there's going to be more strands and there's just going to be more and more vaccines.
I think the vaccination mandate is very ethical because as more and more people get vaccinated, all the cases are going to slowly go down because with the herd immunity, it won't spread as easily.
I think it should be optional. I feel like everyone should have a choice if they want it or not, and if they don't believe in it, then I don't believe that you should be able to forcefully be able to take it.
Without herd immunity, people who are immunocompromised, people who can't get the vaccine will forever be able to be exposed.
I feel like people should be able to choose if they want to take it or not.
I think it's very important that everyone gets it because if a country gets it as a whole, then all the cases will just slowly go down as we're getting closer to curing more people with COVID.
I don't think you should be forced to get it, but I do think that small businesses and such should mandate it, or should be able to mandate it.
Nah, I feel like it's your own decision. But I got the vaccine though, but I feel like other people shouldn't be forced to take it.
I haven't even got the vaccine, and I've been okay, and he just didn't deserve it.
We need to impose a vaccination mandate in order to protect all of our people, including those who have immunocompromised diseases such as like asthma or heart diseases and things of that nature.
I personally think that people should have their free will to choose what they want to do.
Well, Jake, we got very mixed answers, but it seems like most students would rather let it be their choice to get vaccinated or not.
I mean, yeah, for sure, but it seems like we got some pretty diverse answers. A lot of students are pretty educated on the subject, which is really impressive to me. So thank you for those interviews, guys, and I just want to talk to Kate, both of y'all about this. Someone mentioned in there about small businesses. Should they be able to mandate the vaccine? What are your thoughts on that? Because, I mean, just go into it.
I don't think small businesses should mandate the vaccine because small businesses need their employees, and if they mandate the vaccine, they could leave the small business, which we don't need right now. We are facing an unemployment crisis, and people just should not be mandated to do something with their body that they don't think will help them.
I think that was a pretty good point with the economic. I talked about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The economic things. I would say that like they're like a privatized. I said they're like a privatized like entity. Mm-hmm. So I feel that they have the right to do with what they want with their business, and I would say that their effects from that is up to them, whether they want their employees to stay or not. But it's ultimately their choice whether they want to mandate within their store. Or
yeah. So I mean,
business.
like you said, if the businesses choose to mandate it, I mean, technically they own the employees. I'm not gonna say own, that's a bad word, but they're in charge of the employees. Is that okay? Because they're in charge of the employees and they're choosing to work for them.
If they want to do it, they can go ahead because it's not the federal government. I mean, states can do what they want, small businesses can do what they want. If they want to say that, I guess go right ahead, but I don't think it would be very, very beneficial for their employees.
Okay. You want to comment on that at all?
No, I'm good.
Okay. We can talk about schools. Schools have seen just a dramatic wave. They've heard all different things. So like in Tennessee, where we had the mask mandate, then they took it away. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that was a good decision?
To take away the mask mandate?
Yeah.
Yes, I do actually, because I've seen so many people who are not wearing masks, and we shouldn't have to if we don't want to, because apparently the vaccine, it's already so effective that we don't need to wear masks, so there really is no point.
But there's refusal to get the vaccine. If the like you said, if the vaccine was effective, then once you get, I believe, vaccinated twice, I think, you can take your mask off in public places, or at least that's how the mandate was.
Well, Just a quote here. Joe Biden said, if you are vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. But before the mask mandate was repealed, they still had to wear masks. So obviously he thinks that mask, even if you are vaccinated, you still need a mask. But I don't think that's the case, because masks, I don't really think prevents the virus. As we saw last December, actually, there's this VAERS database graph. The cases went up in December and then down in the spring and summer and then up again now. So I think it is just a seasonal regional virus that is here to stay. No amount of masking or vaccinations or censorship or quarantines will change that.
Well, shouldn't we do something about that? If it's seasonal, shouldn't we try to avert its effects in some way?
Well, the cold is seasonal, the flu is seasonal. What do you want to do about that?
Well, based on the figures I presented, the COVID-19 vaccine, the COVID-19 virus is far more dangerous than the cold or the flu.
I don't think that's the case, actually, because with the flu, it's actually just the same amount of death rate as the COVID vaccine. And I actually do have a question for you. So there were 1,675 flu cases through the 20 through 21 season, but there's usually 34 million cases per year. So why was that? And this is actually according to the CDC. And also the PCR test to test COVID, it says it does not differentiate between flus, colds, or COVID vaccines.
Then how do they tell which one is different?
Exactly. So they have tried to better them, but that's why we are seeing so many COVID cases I actually don't think are accurately reported. It's because they grouped them up together with the flu and cold. That's why there are only 1,675 cases this year when there's normally 34 million.
Well, I think that would be fairly logistic. That would be a logistic nightmare. Like if you were to combine different diseases together and to give them the same label. If you're going to diagnose people properly, I think that you would want to, I just find it improbable that they would, group all of those different diseases.
Well, maybe it's not even meaningful that they're grouping them. I mean, they can't tell between the cold and flu or COVID. So if I went in because I was sick and I really had the flu, they could count it as COVID and then count that as a COVID case, because that's what the PCR test was doing last year and this year.
Do you think they've fixed it since then or no?
Maybe some, but as far as I know, I still don't think that it's logical that we've had this many cases.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. We've touched on this a little bit already, but I just want to kind of talk about more about how the Constitution and how laws and rights go along with the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. You want to just talk about that? And
sure.
Yeah.
How it backs you.
All right, so mandates, they are not laws. They are just something from the executive branch. It's not from the legislative branch. It's not from the judicial branch. So that's why checks and balances were created. So the executive branch cannot do that. It's not a legal requirement, and companies are being pressured by the government to enforce these vaccines. Also, for OSHA, the vaccine mandate saying companies with 100 or more employees have to have the vaccine mandate, that wasn't from the legislative branch. And again, it's not a law, so that violates the Constitution. And in our 10th Amendment rights, it says any power not granted to the federal government, that goes to the state. So the state should decide. If a state does want to have a vaccine mandate, then they can go ahead. But the federal government should not issue one for the entire country. That's why we have representatives and senators.
That's a good point. I would say that there is a degree of we have to look at it I think with what he was saying is that you have to look at it with sectors. It's very unlikely that you'll find a federal mandate that can cover every single person in the United States. But usually what it's covered is in sectors, like what you see with the 100 healthcare workers with the OSHA. That would be a good example of how we could carry out a vaccine mandate.
Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you to Kate and Trevor for being guests on our show. Thank you for watching Tiger Clash. And we'll see you next time. I believe our next debate is on abortion, so that's going to be a fun one. But thank you to everybody involved. Thank you to Kate and Trevor for coming out, and we'll see you next show.